Folks, a very warm welcome to you all this evening. Thanks very much for joining us for our webinar today, which is Making Literacy Easier with Mental Imagery. So my name is Barbara O'Mara, and I've recently taken on a role at the Dyslexia Association of London as a members and operations manager. My aim is to continue to provide you with relevant information through webinars, through our forum, or whatever means that we can resource it. So I hope to continue in the same vein as the team have done up until now. Philippa on the line here is our chairperson and continues to support all the work that we do at the association. I'm very pleased to introduce you to our guest presenter, who you've heard chatting here already, Olive Hickmott. Olive describes herself as a forensic health and learning coach. She created Empowering Learning to enable highly creative students to learn in the way that's most effective for them, and that's typically through their strength of mental imagery. Olive has written many books on the subject, including Elephants in the Classroom and many more besides. Before I hand over to Olive, just a couple of housekeeping notes to bring to your attention. So we have a free forum that everybody is really welcome to join. It's a very supportive and understanding environment for adults with dyslexia or adults supporting people with dyslexia. So you can post your questions on there, or we'll carry on the conversation just a couple of minutes if necessary after the webinar, and Olive can join us there as well. Please feel free to get involved and join the conversation. It's a resource that's really useful for everybody. This webinar is being recorded, so if you miss anything, don't worry. It'll be available for you to listen to in your own time, at your own pace. It'll be available on the Dyslexia Association of London's website, and I think Olive is also putting it up on her website as well tomorrow morning. Ours will be available in the coming week, not quite as quick as that, but it will be there. So don't worry about taking notes, or if you miss anything, you'll be able to catch up. And this is an interactive session, so Olive is going to take us through a pre-recorded presentation, but she will be keeping an eye on the chat box. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please continue to ask the questions and interact, and Olive will pause and supplement the presentation and add to it depending on what your question is. So without further ado, I think that's all the housekeeping. Olive, I'm going to hand over to you, and let us know throughout if there's any way that we can help you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining me. It's great to have you here, and also great to have your comments. I love to have comments as we go along, because I can either answer them in the chat box, or we can do them at the end, or I can even pause the recording and we can do them in the middle. So all possibilities here, and it's great to know why you're here, and you'll get, if the more you can ask questions, the more benefit you're going to get from this session. So yes, and thank you, Barbara, for firstly and Philippa for inviting me here, and secondly for that introduction. I've been doing this for 18 years, and I really continuously look to find new audiences where I can tell them about this, because it's a little known art. So without further ado, I'm just going to run the video, which is not very long, but it actually covers all the important points, and it was made specially for this forum. So let me just see. Wait a moment. We've got Barbara. You know that thing that happened this afternoon where I got host disabled from screen sharing?
Yeah.
You're going to have to enable me.
Okay.
The pleasures of Zoom for those who have only started using it recently.
There you go, Olive. I think that should work.
Yeah, that's it. Great. So you should be able to let us know in the chat box whether you can hear it well. You should be able to. Hello, I'm Olive Hickmott. I've been working for 18 years with hundreds and thousands of exceptional children and adults. I'm a forensic learning coach and author, which means that I help people pick apart the challenges they are having and work out how to overcome them. For myself, I was dyslexic for 50 years and probably ADHD too, which is why I feel so strongly about this topic. I want people to find it easy using their exceptional strengths to convert those for other things. Everyone should be able to fluently read, spell in English. They should be able to do comprehension and have reasonable handwriting. They should be able to learn how to have choice to calm their brains. Once they learn about mental imagery, all of this is possible. I've helped them learn in a way that isn't really mentioned in schools, visually, not visual teaching. When you say visual learning to school teachers, they think visual teaching because that's what they've been trained to do, teach visually. Multisensory teaching and learning is a given in school, but visual learning is not in teacher training. So schools focus very little on visual learners and how to get the best out of using their strengths. There are at least 11 secrets that nobody tells you about visual learning, which I'm about to explain to you. I'd be interested to know in the chat box how many of you are here for yourselves, for your kids, or maybe even for your grandchildren. For parents, hold fire on genetics. I believe that exceptional mental imagery may be genetic, but only some people turn into dyslexics. And I have several twins where I have seen this happen. So what about our creative kids? Let me take you back to children for just a moment. And this is my friend Freddie, who comes to many of the workshops with me. Have you noticed how children are growing up and coming into an education system with more creative and imaginative minds, fueled by the amount of visual stimulation? Have you ever noticed adults who think differently? Maybe you're even married to one. What is going wrong when they are in school? They had poor spelling, poor reading, poor handwriting, couldn't concentrate, couldn't do comprehension, and that happens all day long for them. And so the result is overwhelm and exhaustion. When you first see a child smile at you, you can be sure they have mental images of you. If you put on a pink curly wig, they would probably cry. But please don't try this one. A little later in the playground, they will probably recognise their friends. And let's hope their mum and dad too. So our creative children, what is little Freddie good at? Firstly, there's the parents' experience. Do you know what little Freddie's good at? Because normally there is so much chaos going on with little Freddie that the parents have lost touch with what they're good at. Then there's little Freddie's experience. Does he appreciate his own strengths? Some of these children have the most remarkable strengths, including ones I met who can convert the circles on an ordnance survey map that are in 2D into a 3D mountain. Quite extraordinary. Then there's the teacher's experience. They have to teach it this way because that's what they have been taught. And I've had several teachers apologise to me that they can't change because that's what the national curriculum insists upon. So what are these children so good at, and how do they do them? This is the first secret. Firstly, you may have a child who's really good at Lego, even without the instructions. Secondly, creativity, and even perhaps they've got an imaginary friend. Sport, mental imagery is really useful for that. Drawing, redesigning your bedroom, and maybe doing jigsaw puzzles. And Thomas G. West wrote a book called Seeing What Others Cannot See, which is such a true expression. So what is the underlying skill? It's visual learning, or otherwise known in my book as mental imagery, so as to not confuse people with visual teaching. When I was a kid, my spelling was atrocious. That's exactly what the head teacher wrote in my end of term report when I was 16. Reading was meaningless, had poor memory, scary pictures, always being told off, and regularly took the underdog's point of view, which is interesting for what I've grown into doing now. I progressed to a maths degree and sport maintained my self-confidence. I was a visual learner who hadn't worked out how to use my visual skills, except for maths, and I term it as growing up in the dark. If you look at my blog, you'll be able to find a free chapter of my latest book, The Elephants in the Classroom, and that particular chapter is entitled Growing Up in the Dark. So what do you like doing? What are your strengths and how do you do them? Motivation is a really big issue. You are all here to learn how to do it, I hope. You need some sort of peaceful environment for the next hour. I find the middle of the night is actually really good when everything is quiet. And as Thomas West said, easy things in school are difficult and difficult things in college or work are easy. I've worked with children and adults for 18 years, and I found out another secret is that all of the learning differences have unrecognized mental imagery symptoms. So I'm going to give you a few examples here. Dyslexics have not progressed from phonics to developing the skill to picture words needed for word recognition. Those with ADHD have mental images that run as a high-speed sequence, causing several distractions, often comorbid with dyslexia. Those on the autistic spectrum can withdraw as they seem to be drowning in mental images without any control at all. People often talk about stress with dyslexia, etc. I think it's the other way around. I think the stress is causing dyslexia. And I can cite hundreds of clients and the difference home education can make when the pressure's off. So here's the next secret. You need to be making friends with your mental images. Teaching anyone how to best to make friends with their mental images can be great fun. Every single child or adult I have ever met in the last 18 years, and there have been thousands, has been creative and has massive strengths in mental imagery. The flip side of these powers is that students do not know how best to use them for other things, say words and numbers, and not to get overwhelmed by them. These skills need nurturing, and using them properly is very calming. According to NASA, we were all born as creative geniuses, and the late Sir Ken Robinson did a lot of work on creativity. And there's some examples of people who are using their mental images. Tom Daling on the 10-metre diving board has rehearsed his dive thousands of times as mental imagery. When you're having your hair cut, I think you'd be pretty shocked if the hairdresser didn't know what it was going to look like. And those two lovely kids there are having great fun making a pizza, and they know exactly what it's going to look like. The pole vaulter in the next picture, it's a very complicated manoeuvre to pole vault, and you have to rehearse that as well lots of times. And for those of you who play football, if you imagine the ball hitting the back of the net before you kick it, you're more than likely to be successful. So making friends with your mental imagery. Watch someone's eyes. They will look up as they access their mental images. As children grow up, you can notice their mental images time and time again when you look closely. Can I ask you to picture an object you are very familiar with? For example, an apple. Notice what it looks like. There is no right or wrong. It's your apple. You can try describing it to somebody else. Perhaps you'd like to try picturing an elephant. You can have any sort of elephant you like. Some people have got normal grey ones. Other people have stripy ones doing ninja dancing. Notice where the other person is looking when they are talking. You can even do this on a Zoom call. Everyone needs to become comfortable with their own images and not overwhelmed by them or frightened. If you can't control your images, wait for a moment I will talk about that shortly. Neuroscience tells us that these images hang out in your occipital lobe, which is the back part of your brain. I really recommend that you encourage discussion between family members about mental imagery. You can talk about past events, you can be talking about imagination and creativity. Some people have pictures that are like a full colour TV. Some are black and white, some are cartoons. Some people just know what their pictures look like. Everything is just fine. They're your pictures. You might also look at what size they are and what texture they are. And if you move on to thinking of some animals, are they still or are they moving? As you become an adult, dyslexics can typically develop the most extraordinary visual skills, being highly creative, great problem solvers, seeing different perspectives in 3D. They can step back and see the bigger picture, so they can move from the minutiae into the bigger picture. They can see patterns and make connections that others do not see, as I mentioned earlier. They can use their intuition to connect all the dots. Great skill, that. They can take apart and simplify complex ideas. And they are simply thinking differently. Many of these skills can be developed if you've not lost the skills in a school or home environment at a younger age. I do all of this in a health and learning environment, and it gives me invaluable skills. Another interesting thing is that people know dyslexics are highly visual, but they haven't learnt how to teach them visually. Empowering learning is unique here for having worked out the exact details for success. And for those people who have succeeded, then companies like GCHQ and EY and Facebook positively encourage the recruitment of dyslexics. Fourth secret coming up: controlling your mental images. This is what lack of control of mental images looks like. It's really painful. You need slow, gentle breathing in and out through your nose. There are millions of people who are over-breathing through their mouths worldwide, which is bad for all manner of health challenges. And in the USA, they reckon that 70% of people diagnosed with ADHD are actually mouth breathers. Mouth breathing increases stress, avoids the vital nasal functions, and reduces your carbon dioxide, which restricts oxygenation to every cell in your body, including your brain. So while I'm talking, just practice slow, gentle breathing in and out through your nose and breathing right down into your belly. Notice how it relaxes you and reduces your anxiety. And with ADHD, everything happens at such an obsessional lightning speed. So you need to be able to take care of your autonomic nervous system with safety, breathing and grounding. So get relaxed, gentle breathing. Imagine you can ground through your feet or from the base of your spine to enable you to feel solidly connected to the earth and natural gravity. With just a little practice, you can have control of your mental imagery. You will be able to select one still picture or more at will. Now let's look at how mental imagery can help with reading, spelling, and so much more. Repeat the breathing and grounding frequently to keep letters still. The fifth secret is that you can improve your handwriting if you want, simply and easily. Just try copying down the heading you see there. In a class, you can use this for copying down from the board. So now, copy down "Here is a secret" without looking at the paper in whatever style you like. So don't look at the paper, just copy it down from the screen. Then notice what happened. The first thing most people notice is that the writing will speed up. If you copy carefully, then you can improve your handwriting too. It is a fantastic skill for copying down from the board at school or taking notes in one-to-one discussions or in a presentation. The next topic is reading, and we've got 3 secrets here. Before we do that, we just have to have a word about motivation to change. I encourage you to get very clear about what would be better if you learnt to spell and read easily. Would your experience of the world stay the same? What would your life be like? What would it sound like, feel like? What would others say? It's quite possible that you can change really simply, and it can be fun. Now you've got control over your pictures, you can use them for words. First, try to read a paragraph in any book or newspaper and notice which words you recognise and which you need to break down into phonics and blend. The words you recognise are already in your brain's word form area. Congratulations! The 7th secret is to notice where the book is. If you raise the book a little higher, does it improve your reading? This isn't magic, but a function of your eye position to keep you out of any negative emotions that you naturally access when you are looking down. Find anything you are motivated to read. Just read to yourself with the book propped up until you can create some confidence and feel free to ask words you don't understand. You can also practice reading to the cat or the dog. Don't read aloud yet to anyone else. That just creates performance anxiety. Now the 8th secret, comprehension. When you're reading, create pictures for comprehension. Just read a paragraph, make up a picture, read another paragraph, make up another picture, and then see if you can join them together like videos. So you end up with a video of the whole book that you're reading. So the 9th secret is spelling. If you've tried something like Look Cover Right, please notice the subtle differences that make all the difference. Visualising words is an essential skill for literacy. Those who are good at literacy picture words in their mind's eye, as in mental images. English has a deep orthographic depth, and so phonics isn't enough. So relax again, picture a dog, say, or a cat if you prefer. Tell your image to keep still, no tail wagging. Write a word on a post-it. Hold it in front of the person or yourself. Transfer the word onto the dog. Spell it forwards or in reverse order. Let's do a bit of practice with Teddy. You will notice that these are all noun words. This is the place to start. You can use capitals if you like, whatever the student prefers. Use picture words to start with. This is a simple step-by-step process as you put the word in the picture. You can practice with longer and longer words, always going for building on success, and hence confidence grows. Everyone can do it. Then copy down from your mental image to paper without looking at the paper. Picturing words creates word recognition and fluent reading. You only need phonics for new words. Have fun practicing. Now, for those of you who like research and neuroscience, here's a picture of your brain with your eye at the front here and your occipital lobe at the back here, just above the dent in the back of your neck. When you're very small, the first thing you do is start accessing the meaning of a word. Then you move on to be able to pronounce it and be able to articulate sentences. Now, when you see a word, it comes into your brain here, and this discusses with this part of your brain what the word is. So that'll break it down into phonics and put it back together again and blend it. Once you've seen a word a couple of times, it ought to go down here into the word form area, which is right next to the occipital lobe. So that when you see the word the next time, you can go on the express pathway straight to the occipital lobe. And that's what you need for spelling as well. That's where you access the words. Now the question normally comes up, what about words that have no pictures? So there is a really simple trick to do this. Firstly, imagine an object like a rocket. Then take a look at the rocket with rocket written on the side of it. And then let the rocket zoom off into space and just have rocket written on a post-it. When you are confident with noun words, you can start to move on to non-object words, written on your own private whiteboard, again building up your confidence. So there's your whiteboard. Give it a dust off, put your new word on it, and then you don't need to keep visualizing objects. You're just visualizing a whiteboard. Now have a little practice with longer and longer words. Look at a word, read it, look away, and then write it down without looking at the paper. You can do that with all of those words: lion, zebra, giraffe, large, said, try, read, all of those words. Yet another secret. How do you deal with homophones? Dealing with those silly words that sound the same in the English language and have different meanings. All you do is add a little cartoon on your whiteboard to help you remember which is which. So where, as in W-H-E-R-E, is a question. Where, as in your shirt, is W-E-A-R, and where, as in a town near Hartford, is W-A-R-E. So what you've got to do now is practice, practice, practice till you have a new habit. It may take you 24 days to really master a new habit, and for some people it may take a lot less. Just 10 minutes practice once a day will work and make practice as much fun as possible. If you have any negative emotions come up, just send them off to the moon or a waste bin and collect some confidence to replace them. The next secret, number 10th, we haven't finished with these yet. Once you've got words in your word form area, you don't really need to break them down anymore. So just have a look at this. I know it looks weird to start with, but believe it or not, you will be able to read it. And I'll help you here and run through it with you. I couldn't believe that I could actually understand what I was reading. The phenomenal power of the human brain, according to the research team at Cambridge University. It doesn't matter in what order the letters in the word are. The only important thing is that the first and the last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human brain does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Such a condition is appropriately called typoglycemia. Amazing. Yeah, and you always thought spelling was important. Thanks to Cambridge University for giving us another perspective on how we actually process information. And here's the last set of secrets that I'm going to tell you about, although you can find some more yourself. This is for maths. Some people are absolutely terrified of maths. Kids will fail their SATs in Key Stage 1 without the ability to visualise numbers, whether they're visualising them as counters, visualising them as a dice, or how they're visualising them. The simple way to learn how to visualise numbers is to picture the word dog and then put a 2 at the front, so you're now picturing 2 dogs, and then you can rub the word dog off of your whiteboard. Nobody taught you to visualise numbers. That's what's going to make all the difference. So you can see that lad on the left is totally confused with numbers flying all over the place. When the lad in the middle gets really grounded and is breathing properly, he can organise the numbers to see them in his imagination. And the final step is simplifying times tables. The number triangle is a really, really helpful thing to help you with times tables. That one means 7 times 2 is 14, and also 2 times 7 is 14. And so you only have to learn half of them anyway. And also 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. What could be easier? Now, during lockdown, I did a lot of very short videos to put on YouTube so that people could pick up the skills for themselves. And all those blue blobs on there are for a 10-minute, 15-minute video on YouTube. And so you can refer to each one of these. You'll find they're really, really useful, and they come in 4 categories. Reducing anxiety, which I think is where we should all be starting, because children in school get really anxious about some of this stuff. Secondly, identifying their strengths, get them curious with praise about what they enjoy doing and how they can use that for visualising words, and then how they can use it for visualising numbers. So I say these are all very short videos on my YouTube channel, Olive Hickmott. Now, how can you help others? Firstly, you could tell others about this technique. I found out about it when I was 50. I really don't want people to have to wait until they're 50 to find out this fact. And I was quite annoyed when I found out that nobody had taught me. Do ask them to contact me if they don't understand what you're saying or if they don't believe it's possible. Here are some resources and coaching and training. There's my website, which is empoweringlearning.co.uk, where you'll find resources, training courses and masterclasses. There's lots of these mini videos for lockdown on my YouTube channel, which is Olive Hickmott. And do subscribe, because when you subscribe, then you lose all the other stuff that pops up when you type Olive Hickmott. Then there's my blog, which has got lots of useful stuff, olivehickmott.co.uk, and I'd also be delighted if you'd follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn or Twitter. So here's my 3 books on the subject of learning differences. The last one was called The Elephants in the Classroom, uncovering every student's natural power of mental imagery to enhance learning. So it does exactly what you see on the tin. On the right-hand side here is a workbook which gives you simple step-by-step instructions, and you can order that off my website. You can learn the skills for yourself through coaching with one of our practitioners, or you can learn to teach others for yourself. Thank you very much for listening. There we go.
Thank you, Olive. That was really amazing, actually. And I think you can see from the comments in the chat box that everybody else is feeling the same way. It seems simple, but I guess I'm interested to know, Olive, if your experience with helping adults, how easy that journey is to move from a position of thinking you can't do something to moving to a position of, yes, I can.
I think a lot of it is in the feeling brave to have a go at something different. I mean, last time when I spoke to you, I just launched into it and got you to visualize a word. And I think if you can get somebody's got to experience it in order to believe it. And so therefore the people who are dyslexic or just have struggled with spelling or reading, they are actually the people that are the easiest to teach. Because if you talk, I always remember when I first started doing this work, and I used to say, well, half the population can do this already. So they think I'm mad teaching people because everybody can do this. And then the other half of the population can't do it. And they also think I'm mad because they don't think they'll be able to do it. And so there was this interesting dilemma here. And so the people that it's easiest to change are the people that are open-minded, willing to try anything. Adults can sometimes be more difficult because they've got so much baggage, if you like, that comes along with them. I always remember one guy who came here to, he was an adult and he just couldn't read reports. And I got him reading reports in about 15 minutes. And then I moved on to how he can remember reports, which is comprehension. And he looked at me and he went, when I walk out of here, is this going to rub off?
Yeah, I can imagine that would be my thought as well.
And I had another guy who was 42 who came with his daughter, and she was not doing well with literacy, and we got her great. And he'd already told me he was dyslexic, and I said, now are you going to try this? And he went, well, I'm very pleased she has, but for me, I don't need to do this. There is nothing in a book that interests me. And I went, shh. Yeah. And I phoned his wife up that evening and I said, I had to stop him talking because she was taking that in, and the daughter. And so I said, would you get it? Would you convince him to come back and see me? And he came back the following week, got him over the problem, gave him a Barrington-Stoke book, which is, Barrington-Stoke books are written on cream-coloured paper. They are written for older kids, but the stories are for older kids, but the words are for younger kids. So they don't feel they're being put down.
Okay.
And I went through my selection of Barrington-Stoke books, and I picked out one on motorbikes, and because he was interested in motorbikes. And his wife reported to me the next day, he came home, read the book from cover to cover. And then he said to me the following week, he said, well, I don't think I will ever really be reading lots of books, but I tell you one thing, when I'm buying parts for the motorbike online, I can read the words now. Big result.
So he found an application.
Absolutely. That's the motivation thing is what you need.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the trouble is that adults can lose the motivation, that they just think this is just too difficult because they've got too many bad experiences from when they were at school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you've helped quite a lot of people here on our call tonight, and I'm sure that everybody else who hears it from either your website or from ours, you'll give them also some food for thought.
Do put your questions in, or you can probably even, can they unmute themselves?
No, not on the webinar, not on this webinar. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to put in your questions in the chat box, please do. I'll be happy to answer them. I'd like to just make a comment about the lady who asked about breathing. It's a very common problem that people think they should be breathing in through their nose and out through their mouth, or in through their mouth and out through their mouth. Basically, the party line is that you should be breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. There is loads and loads of reasons why this is so, especially with COVID around at the moment. If you breathe in through your nose, the air gets cleaned, warmed, hydrated, all in the nasal cavity. So I've been talking about breathing for the last year. If you breathe out through your nose, you don't breathe out so much carbon dioxide. And if you've got a child who is very hyper, then breathing out through your mouth is like the experience of blowing up balloons. You know what I mean? So, you know when you get a bit wobbly after you've been blowing up balloons, that's what they're doing if they're breathing out through their mouth too much. And it reduces the oxygenation in every cell in their body, including their brain. And so you don't want to be doing that. But it does take a bit of practice to get used to it. Then somebody's just asked me, is it possible for people to be good at reading but very slow to get better? Yes, of course, it is, definitely. If you're slow at reading, then you're probably using phonics. So you're breaking individual words down, and then you're putting them back together again, and you're going to be slow. What you haven't done is migrated. Do you remember that picture I showed you of the brain? What you haven't done is migrated to the word form area, which gives you fast access to what the word looks like. We had a very interesting thing happen I've got practitioners all over the world. Now I've got 2 in Wales, and they did my training, and they phoned me up the next week and they went, Olive, we've got a problem. We've got the opposite happening in Welsh. And I went, right, tell me what Welsh is like. And they went, Welsh is a phonetic language. And so I've got the opposite problem happening with these kids, is that they can read and they can spell, but it's really slow. So phonics is working for reading and phonics is working for spelling, because Welsh is a phonetic language, whereas they're still not moving on to their word form area, which speeds them up. And in English, which is something I didn't mention on the video, in English, we haven't got a phonetic language. And unfortunately, we're teaching our children phonics only. And the word only is the big mistake. English is not purely phonetic. If you grow up in Italy and Italian is your first language, Italian is an exemplar language for a phonetic language. So whatever you hear is exactly what you write, and what you see is what you read. And so you don't actually need word recognition until you become really fluent and really fast reader. Let me just have a look at the questions. I've just gone back a bit. Anybody?
Yeah, I can follow one of the questions here for you, Olive. Can you use the same reading techniques for maths? I do not see numbers at all, and I find it frustrating.
For maths, you need to learn to see numbers. If this is an adult, it just takes a bit of practice. The easiest way to do it is imagine the word. If you can visualize words, you can visualize the word cats. So picture the word cats, look up and see the word cats, then put a number 2 at the beginning. So it now says 2 cats. Now rub off the cats and you're visualizing numbers.
Can you repeat that again with another example, Olive? I was sorry, I was looking at the questions.
Right, we'll have another go. Right, picture the word lion, right? Now add a 3 at the beginning, so you've now got 3 lions. Now rub off lions and you're picturing numbers.
Interesting.
And so that's how you learn to picture numbers. Right, somebody said, I believe I'm dyslexic. I asked my employer to sponsor for a diagnostic assessment. They are not willing to do this. Do you know of any charities that would help fund an assessment? Ladies, you're going to have to help me out here.
Yeah, so if you send me an email, and I think info@dyslexialondon.org, we'll provide the options. Unfortunately, it does cost to get an assessment, but we do have some options that will help you in that. So send me a follow-up email and I'll follow up with you tomorrow on that one. Okay,
that was, you know who that was, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just add into that. If any of you have got small children, it's really important to teach them to visualize numbers when they're small, because by the time they take their first level of SATs, which I think they're the age of 7, they will find it much easier to pass SATs if they can visualize numbers. And little children can start off with visualizing like dice or counters or something. It doesn't have to be numbers to start with. But it's really essential that they visualize some form of numbers. It really will help them. And I met somebody who trains our teachers, who went and I said to him, you're visualizing numbers. I met him at a workshop because I have a maths degree and I didn't remember how to do primary maths. And so I went along to this workshop and I said to him at the end, you're visualizing numbers, aren't you? And he said, yeah, I'm visualizing numbers. And I said, but not all kids are, because they've not been taught how to do it, or they've not been encouraged to do it. And he said, that's a learning disability. I'm not dealing with that. And I was horrified, because it's not a learning disability. They've just the kids have never thought of doing it. I have a maths degree. I could always visualize numbers. I never even considered visualizing words. And it wasn't until I was 50 did I discover that the people who are good at literacy visualize words. And I might tell you, I was absolutely furious that nobody had taught me. So if you don't want your kids to be really annoyed with you when they discover at the age of 50, tell them now. The second problem is, can they do it? Which does need more perseverance. But I think everybody should know that that's what people who are good at literacy do.
Olive, we have another couple of questions coming in here, and just getting conscious of the time. I have problems retaining information. How can I overcome this problem? So, yeah, I can relate to this question actually quite well.
It depends how you're. She's going to have to tell me. Is she? Is he or she a visual learner? What do they do as a job? Do they do as a job something which is quite creative and quite uses their imagination? Because if they already do that, then what they've probably done, which a lot of people do, is I'll just back up a minute. The 95% of the children who are referred to me, I ask their parents what they're good at, and it's always creativity and imagination. So they've got good pictures. That's the first thing. But the thing is, do they know how to use their pictures for words, or for numbers, or for memory? And that's the answer to the question here, is that if they're not worked out how to use them for memory, then it's going to be a problem. For example, if you're reading a book, at the end of every sentence, you can just create a picture in your brain of what that sentence was about. Then move on to the next sentence, create another picture. Then move on to the next one and create another picture, and maybe make them into a video so you can remember the whole thing. So that's how it connects with memory.
Okay, we've got another question here. Can I be dyslexic and dyscalculia at the same time? I'm experiencing both.
Linda, I would almost guarantee you're not visualizing words or visualizing numbers, am I right? Dyslexia, 100% of the people I have ever met who are dyslexic are not visualizing words. There's no doubt about it. And most of the dyscalculics are not all the dyscalculics are not visualizing numbers, but some of them also haven't got basic maths as well. But they're not going to even get to basic maths unless they start visualizing numbers.
Do any of your books address that specifically, Olive?
Yeah, I mean, The Elephants in the Classroom, where are you? The Elephants in the Classroom, which is the latest one, which is really targeted at primary schools. So, but don't let that worry you, because this is a skill that you never learnt in primary school. So read that one. So there's that one. There is also one that was on the end of the video, which is what I call a study guide, which takes you through step by step what to do.
Okay.
The Elephants in the Classroom talks about it, and the study guide that you can get off the website just takes you through step by step. Do this, do this, do this.
We're going to send out an email in a couple of days, and it's going to have all your resources on, so links straight to the books, links to your website, links to our website. So I hope no one needs to panic if they're not sure where to go. So we'll send that in a few days' time.
Now, Joe said, I find visualizing can be useful for letter reversals. Now, letter reversals are caused by not being grounded. I'll let that one sink in for a moment. If you're relaxed, have you noticed that if you're really relaxed, then you don't do letter reversals? If you're stressed, letters move around more. And so what we do is we teach people to breathe, we teach people to get grounded, and then the letters stop moving and the numbers stop moving. I love your questions, you guys. I could be here all night answering these.
Unfortunately, we've only got 3 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to know how to get more support, just contact me, and my contact details will all be there. And all I can say is just try it out for yourself and your friends, and don't be afraid that to start with it's going to be a bit peculiar, and it was very peculiar for me 20 years ago. And so just try it out, see where you get to. All the practitioners are really nice people, and you can learn lots from just going on to my YouTube channel and looking at some of the ones I did during lockdown, which are all short, and the one we did this evening, which you can try again.
Yeah, we might share that visual on your slide set, Olive, because I think that particularly sticks in my memory. All your YouTube clips, that looks like a useful resource. So with your permission, if we can share that.
Anything you want to share. I hadn't done much on YouTube until lockdown, and I thought, can't do much else during lockdown, so I'll and everybody was so busy not knowing what they were doing, so I thought I'll do these every week.
Yeah. Okay. So I think just to keep us to time, that's a wrap. I don't think I can see any further questions coming through. We will share everything, as we said, so please be assured of that. so that you can get the information that you need. I hope you've enjoyed this evening's session. Thank you very much, Olive, for your time.
Pleasure.
You've enlightened a number of people, and I'm sure when we put this on our website, that will continue.
Great. Very pleased to help you, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Olive and Barbara. Just to say, we're over on the forum now. If anyone wants to join us, I've been putting the link in the chat box, and we've started the conversation over there. So feel free to join us now, or if you sign up to the forum, it helps support us as a charity, but also there's lots of resources for you, and we'll be posting some of Olive's other YouTube videos in there as well regularly. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
all.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.